on YouTube and
and on
Andor.
yeah.
and
Oh,
or
and so it's on we're on Josh Productions.
let me see. Yes, I need to finish.
So
I need to finish pressing the live button. No,
oh,
post details.
so I can maybe you could share it. You probably have more
Well, I
followers
just
than I
gotta.
do.
I mean, it's fine. What's the word? Andor full spoiler. Okay. Well, you can start talking. We can record it now, so yeah, you just go ahead and
Oh,
tell me
well,
about your weekend. I
well,
mean,
that I got to hang
yesterday.
out. Yeah, I got to hang out with Ryan Coogler, the director of Wakanda Forever.
That's
We
pretty
hung out in the
amazing.
same room yesterday.
Yeah,
Of course, there were other hundreds of people in there, but
but you guys were best friends now.
yep, we're best friends now.
Wow.
Now I went to this event yesterday, CAAM Con. It was
Yeah,
like black comics and stuff.
which is the
Uh,
California African American Museum.
yes,
That's what CAM
it,
stands for.
yes, it does. It was pretty awesome. I was invited by T Emerald T. Shout out to her if she's listening or watching.
Shout
Um,
out.
Yeah, we will have her on a podcast pretty soon. She asked to be on a
Okay.
podcast a few times, but she's been my link to LA, to a lot of LA stuff. That's why I was like, big shout out to her.
So she's the Issa Rae of your
She kind of is,
of
because
your network.
pretty much we have to get her on because I met Brick through her. I met Shalita through her, and they have both been on
They've
the
both been on
show,
the podcast. Yeah,
and
that's pretty cool.
they both have done voices for me. So
Nice.
so
That's really
that's
cool.
pretty cool. Um, but it was like I was supposed to be there for like to help them run the booth for Afro Comic Con, and I didn't know, so it was just
Yeah.
miscommunication because she told me while I was there like you're supposed to be doing your job, and I'm like, uh. What job? I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's
Yeah,
like, "You're
one
supposed to."
job.
Right? I was like, "I didn't know." I thought I was here to
Mm-mm-mm.
just watch. That's what I told her. But it's all good. I still love her. She's an awesome person. She's real cool peoples. So, um, and yeah, got to see Ryan Coogler speak. Got to meet a lot of people that had their own comics, a lot of black comics, comic books and stuff. That was really
That's what's up.
dope. Yeah, and kind of encouraged me to like maybe I should do comics again. Saw
Mm,
some black art, some black posters and stuff. I was like, I could sell some posters. I could sell some shirts. Let me do this thing. Um, so a callback to an earlier episode of the podcast that we definitely have to say.
okay.
Um, so we had Brick on about a month ago when we talked about Steel,
Yeah.
and we talked about one of the characters on Steel, like one of the bad guys, this black dude with a really really deep voice,
Right. I remember
really
that.
deep voice. So we talked about that, and me and Brick were at this thing, and so was that guy.
That's amazing. The odds.
What are the odds? So me and Brick ran over to talk to him. We were like, "Hey, we
Wow.
just did a podcast episode about you, man.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
about Steel, and you were in it." He started laughing. Oh, really?
So his voice
Well,
is
that's
just as
really
deep.
good.
His voice is just as deep in person as it is 30 years ago on that show.
Yeah, it is.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very awesome. And he's a comic book writer. We got a selfie with him, and I have the comic that he wrote. This is the first issue. Bass
Nice.
Reeves.
Okay.
And it's got some pretty good art in there. Brick also bought a copy of the same book because he had a bunch of them there, and I was like, yeah, I was like, I couldn't just go over there and not support.
Right.
You got to support the black artists, man, the black
I
writers, all that.
It's one of my favorite things to do. When I go to
Yeah,
Comic Cons is always get the black art comics.
right, exactly. And I got that from you, so that's what we do. Pretty awesome, though. So, anywho, other than that, What we talking about this time? Oh, I can
Ah.
hear the music. Oh,
Yeah.
this is different. This is
Yeah.
very different.
So, yep, we trying something out. we are live. We are live in this thing.
Yeah.
We're talking about Andor. So if you haven't seen
Oh.
it, the series, live action Star Wars show on Disney Plus.
Yeah, let me introduce myself. I am Josh, aka Prop Josh, and I am joined by my brother from the same mother
and father.
Yeah.
Jason. I'm Jason, also known as Smiley.
All right. And so yeah, we will be talking about this thing. So I was not going to watch this show, or maybe later or so. I wasn't really. I was getting kind of jumping off the whole Star Wars thing a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I literally watched the first episode, and I think the first half of the second episode, and fell asleep. And I was like, nah.
Right. I watched the first 3 episodes, and I was like, I was just kind of sitting through it. But I was trying to give it a chance. I tend to give things a chance. I'm not. I have a relationship with Star Wars is different than it is with Marvel. I give everything Marvel a chance. Like no matter what, I'm gonna watch it. If it's Marvel, I'm gonna watch it every time. Right. But with Star Wars, I'm just like, even with The Mandalorian, I didn't watch it right when it premiered. I waited like a day, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna watch this, and then I got hooked. And I don't even know if I'm gonna watch the other Star Wars series. So Andor was kind of that first one. I was like, well, maybe I'll pass on this one. Then I saw a lot of hype about it, people talking about it. And I was like, all right, let me go ahead and watch it. Then it got so much hype, we had to do an episode.
It was really after it finished.
Right.
And honestly, one of the things that got me was shout out to Randy. Hopefully you listening to this. We gotta get you on a podcast one day with Star Wars super fanato. But no, he said Andor is one of the best. He said it was better than Mandalorian.
Yeah, he did
on Facebook, and I was like, wait a minute, what? And Randy, I'm like, he knows his Star Wars, so I'm just like, I might have to give this a chance. So that's kind of how. That's why I started watching it, and I pretty much binged it in like 2 days.
Wow, it took me a little longer.
Maybe 3 days.
Well, I have my pros and cons for the show.
Yeah.
I'm not going to just love everything, but I still, enjoyed it enough. I forgot to get rid of this. Josh's Comic-Con experience. So, I forgot to get rid of that.
We talked about that. So you got something for us? What's Josh got this time?
What Josh got this time? Well, I got a few Star Wars figures.
Okay.
Yes, I did. So before I show these Star Wars figures, I signed up for Hasbro to get a selfie series.
Yeah.
And they had to scan my face 3 times. They had to scan my face. I had to call them up. I thought my face was that ugly that the scanner kept breaking. Wow. I was like, man, come on, man.
Every time I scanned a beautiful face.
Or maybe I'm too beautiful that the thing kept breaking. Either way.
Please acknowledge the beauty of my
face.
Face.
So they said it was their system. So hopefully it should be coming in like in a few weeks. And I signed up to be a stormtrooper. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a stormtrooper. And which gave me the idea of maybe I should make a series, a stop motion series about me as a stormtrooper, because there's a lot of former black stormtroopers. Whenever a stormtrooper takes off their helmet, they happen to be black. I'm just saying,
goodness.
It's a weird
thing.
No. Not whenever, but it seemed like
all the times.
We're going. I think black people are kind of crossing over into the Star Wars universe a little bit more. I mean, we've always been there.
We've always been there.
We've always been there.
The
we
voice
just kind
of Darth Vader.
Right. I mean, I don't think there's a Star Wars movie that doesn't have a black person in it.
Yeah.
So, even the first one. So anyway, I got this figure right here. It is, I think she's third sister.
Yeah. So
Reva
for the listeners. Okay.
Yeah, it's the black girl from Obi-Wan. It's the black Jedi killer.
Yeah.
Sith. What do they call them?
I
Inquisitors.
forget. Yeah,
Yeah,
Inquisitor. That's what it
Inquisitor.
is.
That's what they call it. They're not a Sith Lord, but they still have Jedi powers or something like that. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of Jedi. There's a lot of people with Jedi powers. Well, she was. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert for Obi-Wan. She was a formal Jedi student that grew up and worked for Darth Vader, and she is pretty awesome. So
Mm,
when I first heard the hate that she got online for being a black woman in the Star Wars universe, I was like, I bet you her action figure come out is going to be worth a lot.
yeah.
And I was right. When her action figure came
Really?
out, I was like, oh, this is the best action figure in that line.
Okay. Okay.
In that Obi-Wan line, I haven't even bought Obi-Wan. I've seen two different Obi-Wan figures. I'm like, they
Mm,
look okay. Then I saw her and I was like, she looks badass. Like for real.
yeah.
Like I was like, that's really cool. So
Okay.
and they did a detail on her face. I'm like, I didn't even like the character that much. And I was like, I
Mm,
had to get this. This looks like, hey, I'm a fan of action figures,
right.
especially the more detailed they are. So I will be putting her on the show. so
Okay.
so if there's any female voice actors listening and you want to do a voice, hit me up. She could use
You
a
can do a
voice,
good Reva.
right? Otherwise, she's gonna sound like me.
Yeah. What would she sound like?
I'm gonna destroy all of you. She's gonna sound like Frieza.
She's gonna sound like Frieza
Yeah.
and your original voice, Violet from
Yeah,
Life
Fight
Force.
Force. Yep, before I had voice actresses. I did a lot. I had to do girl
You
voices,
did all the voices.
Yeah, there was a girl on Josh's journal that was the stuck up girl. I had to do her voice.
Same. She sounds
Sounds
the same.
like I did the same
That's your
voice
girl
every time. That's
voice.
my girl voice. Like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Get
Oh
out
my
of here.
goodness.
That's what she's gonna sound like. So just letting y'all know.
So heads
there's
up, please, please, please. We need someone to audition for that role.
Right. And I might need some stormtroopers. So here's a stormtrooper.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is from the First Order. I think this stormtrooper is from the game Jedi Fallen Order or something. I think it said. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Looks pretty cool though. I was like, there was a bunch of them at GameStop. The only thing about stormtroopers is they're a little expensive. That's why I don't have a million of them, because otherwise I have a whole bunch of them. But
Yeah.
this one looks pretty cool. I'm like, he will be on the show as well, because I want to have some stormtroopers with my character. Once I get my character, I'm gonna have it all set up. I have a whole empire set up on my window right now.
So when are you supposed to get is there ETA on when you're supposed to get that?
They say January 11th or something. So
Okay.
we'll see. And then so one more is this one, and this is actually from Rogue One.
Nice.
So on the subject of what we're talking about, I just got this in the mail. I got this on Black Friday. This whole setup. I like this stormtrooper's got like a backpack and a little antenna, and
I wouldn't believe that
thing.
didn't value. You liked Marvel more. I mean, because you have these action figures. It's like,
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of action figures, and I just bought these recently.
Okay.
All three of those were very, very recent. Star Wars is my lowest collection, one of my lowest collections for real. But I do have
50.
No, I don't have
the normal 1,000.
There's a lot, because when I see Marvel, I buy it immediately. With Star Wars, I'm like, debate. So those are my only stormtroopers, the white stormtroopers, because I got two black stormtroopers. Like the black outfits were black, are completely black, and I bought those.
They're another name for them. I forgot the name of those.
Dark troopers or something. I don't know,
something like that.
Eventually, I'm gonna buy some droids, but I'm buying this stuff because I'm like, well, I'm eventually make it into a web series, and I think it'll be a fun parody web series.
I think that you just use web series as an excuse.
As an excuse? No, no.
I'm going to eventually make it into web. You just want to buy the action figure. Just admit it.
I do want to just buy the action figures, but well, because making stuff into a web series kind of limits myself, because if I was unhinged, I will collect so much stuff. You will open my door and action figures will pour out.
Fall out.
That's how bad. Yeah. So I had to put a cap on it sometimes, because I'm slowing down on collecting MCU figures.
Okay.
So because I'm not filming with them. And I was like, I wanted to
Mhm.
film with them, and I was like, well, I got nothing to film with them. I'm more dedicated to filming the comic version rather than the MCU version. And so I'm like, I'm backing away from the MCU collection right now.
Mhm.
I did buy one this week, but it was Hawkeye.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject, here he is right here.
Oh goodness.
I bought him because I've never actually had a Hawkeye figure. This is my very first Hawkeye figure. So
It's rare to know what figure you don't have until you tell me you got one. It's like this is my first one. I'm like, did not know. Thought you had everything.
well, I did buy a Spider-Man, and I'll tell you this.
Oh
I
goodness.
I always have Spider-Man.
Yeah, we know that.
I can't remember the first time I bought a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, I can't remember. I've had Spider-Man toys since I was a kid, so you know. But yeah, the whole Star Wars thing. I don't buy every single one of them, but yeah, I had to get this one. I had to get this Reva
Yeah.
figure. It's really dope.
So you wanted to talk about the the Rogue One, or did you want to just talk about the
I want to talk about Disney Plus series.
series, all of
Yeah,
them, just
yeah, yeah,
in a nutshell?
yeah. Like our thoughts, and what are your thoughts on them and
Yeah,
stuff?
because you mentioned how you didn't really plan on giving Mandalorian a chance until you heard about like more of it because it was episodic and like the fact that they would reveal a little bit at a time. And so like honestly for me, um I was hyped up for it because I'm, really into Star Wars. Um, loved all the movies, geek out about it. Definitely remember, it's part of my childhood. Dad put that on us. so
Yeah,
and so to think about like because Mandalorian came out the after the new
yeah. Rise of
saga.
Skywalker and
Yeah.
stuff.
So I was like, oh, we're doing and we've had, Disney Plus is kind of new in its genre of developing content, but we've had Star Wars shows in the past, which I've enjoyed. Uh, some of the animated stuff, I thought was really good, and so they had a lot of episodes. I didn't see all of them, but I enjoyed the ones I did watch. So I was like, a live action Star Wars show, which is like you can do a storyline. You, I mean, it's got Disney Plus money. Is it going to have the same effects? And it's like Star Wars Episode 4. The effects on today's budget is like comparison.
Right. Especially to the
so,
first one, to the 1977
so it's kind
one's
of like
way different.
today's budget in comparison to Episode 4 is like, oh yeah, and even Episode 1, 2, and 3, the technology to what we have today is way more advanced than it was 20 years ago.
Right.
And so I was looking forward to it. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every episode of Mandalorian first season. I with whatever hidden secrets. I mean, I thought it was a really good, like, that first opening sequence was like, you don't there's no dialogue. I mean, the sound, the music. Then John Favreau is just a great writer and director. And so like, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have to hear about Mandalorian to give it a try. I was getting my oil change in my car, and I was like, it was going to take a while because I think I had a coupon for a free oil change. That's why. And so I was just sitting in the lobby, and I was like, well, I'm gonna be here for a while, so I might as well. Hold on, let me give this Mandalorian thing a try.
Oh, so you were giving it a try while you're getting your oil changed.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then when it ended, the first episode ended, and I was like,
You
oh
were hooked.
shit, this is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it did a great that was a great opening introduction to, and then the whole series. I mean, the whole season was really good. I mean, we got memes to this day that came from that. I mean, we started talking about Baby Yoda, and like that was like a
Of course.
thing, and you're trying to figure that out. So I think that they did everything right they were supposed to do to kind of get people's attention, to build on the pop culture of Star Wars and to maintain it. But I do think that it has some, there's the fanboys, which are the official name for Star Wars fans.
Hmm.
They are they anybody that like This is the thing about uh geeks and dorks that love content. They always hate the newest thing that comes
I
out.
know, right? They
And then they
do.
go back in their nostalgia to the other stuff. And so, like, because that's
Hmm.
how Star Trek is. It's like, oh, the newest show is garbage, trash, trash, trash. Why don't we go back to this show? And so,
Right. Just
um,
like people are having, there's a new love for the prequels now, which I did not expect.
the
I
original, yeah, one, two,
yeah,
and three. People like
yeah,
that
people
when it
love the
first came
prequels.
out.
People hated the
Oh
prequels
my goodness,
now,
they
and then
hated
then the
all
sequels
of
came
them.
out. Then the sequels came out. I said, you know what? We like the prequels a lot.
Yeah. So eventually they're gonna like the sequels.
Right.
Because right now
Right now, the
there's
sequels
hate.
get a lot of hate.
Like the first one, the first sequel is good, but the rest of them have nothing but
Oh
hate.
yeah, man. Was it not Rise of Skywalker? Was before that one?
The last, not the last Jedi,
Yeah, Last Jedi. The Last Jedi. Man, people hate the
but that's
Last
the
Jedi.
one. That's the one with the casino world,
Yeah,
casino planet. They mentioned
yeah.
that in this
Oh, they do.
Andor. Yeah, they mention it.
Oh,
If you
oh.
remember at the
Well,
end,
see, yeah. This is why we're talking about Andor because I there's a lot of stuff that went over my head for
there's a
this
lot.
show.
There's a lot. But yeah, so I did like I liked all of them. I watched all of them, and I will watch. I thought I was gonna watch every last one they put out. If depends if they try to oversaturate it, then I might get overwhelmed. But I watched The Mandalorian. Was it basically was Boba Fett basically Mandalorian season 2?
You mean season 3? It
Season
was
3.
all right.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
because yeah, I wanted to do a run through of the other Disney Plus shows, the other Star Wars Disney Plus shows, real quick. Because the Mandalorian to me was so good, it was better than the sequels. Like it was
In
one
your
to me.
opinion, it was better than the all the sequels of
Yeah,
Star
yeah. I
Wars
was
of
like,
the.
this is what Star Wars is. Like
Okay, I think I remember you
this is what I
saying that.
wanted. Yeah,
Hmm.
to this day. And then you had Boba Fett.
Yeah,
So Boba Fett,
Boba Fett came
um,
out during. Was it after season 2?
yeah, after season 2,
Okay,
because he was introduced in season 2 of Mandalorian.
right,
And
right.
so a lot of continuation. So Boba Fett definitely you got to watch Mandalorian and Boba Fett together. That you can't watch them separately. They do not stand alone without each other. You have to watch them both, unfortunately.
And that's I mean, the thing about Boba Fett that it's dependent. Like it was good to hear. Like it was a good character drop. Like oh my goodness, they got Boba Fett. They got and Mandalorian did some live action shout outs to different characters that we've seen in the past, and seeing Ahsoka is like oh my goodness, they go Ahsoka, and so it's kind of like really cool to see where's Boba Fett today? Like, oh my goodness, he didn't die
Mm.
with the in Return of the Jedi. Oh my goodness,
Right, right.
like what's
Which
what's his
we all knew.
story?
Which we
Yeah.
all knew.
And it's like, but what is his story? So I'm like, the idea of hearing about Boba Fett's story was like, oh man, I'm looking forward to seeing what happened between Return of the Jedi and now. And then
Hmm.
the story is honestly forgettable. Like if I mentioned how the first couple episodes of Andor like were really slow. The entire season of Boba Fett was just slow. I think the flashbacks were odd because it was every time he was like in a deprivation tank or whatever,
Yeah, I
and it
know.
just
Something
and I
tank or
couldn't
something.
and I couldn't know like it wasn't no continue like the continuation of it didn't work. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the first couple seasons of Arrow and
Yeah,
how Arrow
yeah.
had the
It did feel
flashback,
like that. Yeah.
but like not but it didn't have enough drama in the flashback to get me desire. Like it was like, what are you doing? Why is this important? I don't care. Like
Well,
that's kind of how the flashback worked, and like how does that relate to today? Like even with Arrow, the flashbacks kind of related. They would show something
mm,
that connected to like, oh, that's what he can do now, and he uses it and he does it there.
hmm.
There was no real connection, honestly,
Well, yeah, you're right, but
and
I
so the
did
show didn't
like
get
the
good until Mandalorian came.
well, I did like the flashback of the Sand People, of the
I
Tuscan
mean,
Raiders.
it was
It
interesting to
was
see.
interesting, but it wasn't
Yeah,
that important. And the whole thing with Boba Fett, I thought it was gonna be like a gangster type thing. Star Wars, like, oh, this is a gangster Star Wars type thing. It was not like that at all. I don't think they knew what the tone of the show was gonna be because Boba Fett, he's supposed to be kind of an anti-hero. That's his thing, and they
they
didn't
didn't
really,
use that.
yeah, they didn't use that.
Yeah,
He was more of a hero than an
they
anti-hero.
they took the same notes from Boba Fett that they did for Black Adam.
Yeah, they did.
It's like they
People
don't
don't
want
know
to
how to
make the
write
villain.
anti-heroes no more.
Yeah, because I mean, he was literally the villain of. He was a main villain of the Star Wars original, you know, series,
Yeah,
and so it's like he was a and his and I loved how they introduced his dad in episode
two.
two.
Yeah.
And so, like, oh man, he's like the clones are him. That was a good. I
That
mean,
was a good
I
reveal.
didn't
Yeah.
know that. I feel like Dad knew that, but I was like,
Maybe.
or a theory or whatever. But I'm like, that's a really cool thing that Boba Fett is a clone that grew up, and so that's a really interesting thing. So he has the same kind of fight skills and all this stuff like he's developed, and so it makes sense. But like the idea of a gangster, like you got to think about Jabba the Hutt and dealing with the inner ins and outs of Tatooine and just trying to see like that's the stuff that you be thinking like, oh man, this is gonna be like crime and mystery, and he's gonna be sneaking and stealing stuff. Like he was kind of like the boss of the town at one
Hmm.
point, and then but it wasn't enough intrigue. Anyway, I want to talk about Andor because I mean we can talk about our
Yeah,
best,
yeah.
but
I
what
don't.
else we got? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you be going deep. So I
Yeah,
just want to run over. Well,
because we
with
never
Boba Fett.
reviewed it, so
Right, right, right. And
there's a
Boba
reason.
Fett was and it got better once it became the Mandalorian, and
Mandalorian season
Mandalorian
3.
literally took over. Like there was a
Yeah.
whole 2 episodes
Yeah.
strictly about the Mandalorian,
Yep.
and all Boba Fett did was like nod his head at the Mandalorian.
Mhm.
That's all he did.
Yep.
And I did like the climax of the show, but it was because you had Mandalorian. It felt
Yep.
like
He made the rest
Mandalorian
of the show.
2.5
Yeah.
or
Season 3.
right, kind of 2.5 season.
Yeah.
Um, and then you had Obi-Wan. I think people have mixed feelings on Obi-Wan. We did do a review of Obi-Wan, but it got messed up. So
I was like, did we do a Obi-Wan review? I forgot.
it got
Yeah.
messed up.
Okay.
It's one of our hidden
Hidden
episodes.
episodes if you want to listen
And
to it.
right, I thought Obi-Wan was pretty good, but it was still not quite there. It was like I would probably give it a high redo if I for the rating for that.
Yeah.
Where I would
forgot
give
what I
Boba
said.
Fett, I would give Boba Fett a straight up redo, and Mandalorian is a sequel.
So yeah, I think I don't disagree with those ratings. I mean, I feel like I don't know what I wanted from Obi-Wan. And so I think that like, you know, the similar question of like what happened, because it's like this is Obi-Wan during the before he like in between episode 4 and episode 3, like what is going on? He's on the
Right,
planet,
right.
he's watching over Luke, he's in the shadows. This is old Ben, that crazy guy that's in the shadows, talking to the Jawas and stuff. And so it's like,
Right.
who is he? And so I think that I did enjoy Leia, like that kind of like seeing her as a kid is a good thing. Like I enjoyed that. I
Yeah,
don't know
like
if the canon of them knowing each other before, seeing each other before, because they never really
well,
met.
no, they didn't, but it made sense. I was okay with it. Like the good things of it was I did like little Leia. I did like that whole relationship because that way it did seem like it makes sense in a New
Help
Hope
me,
why she
Obi-Wan
would
Kenobi, you're our only hope.
right, like why she would contact him, like how she know about him, how she know
Yeah.
about this guy that was like out in the desert that nobody knows, but she knows him, and she feel like that's someone I need to call to help me. And so that it made sense. I think that was a good little gap that made sense. And I liked Kid Leia because she actually felt like the daughter of Anakin and Padme. It
She did
felt
good.
so
Yeah.
I
She
did
was my
like that.
favorite. She was definitely MVP of that series.
Yeah, yeah. I heard some people didn't like her, but I liked her. And and I did like, Hayden Christensen come back in as Darth Vader, and I like the mixture between Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones. It just
Oh,
felt
that
like a
was the
good,
tension. I did like that.
it did feel like a good connection in between.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
So
know. Yeah, I don't know what else I wanted from that, and I don't know what the fans wanted from that
yeah,
show.
like I said, it wasn't quite there. It was almost. That's why I said I gave it a high redo because
Yeah,
it
I
was
just don't
like
even know what I
something's not
wanted
quite.
else.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I still liked it enough. But I definitely liked it more than what you call it, Boba
Boba
Fett.
Fett. Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
So yeah, that's my thoughts. So without spoilers, what are your thoughts of Andor?
without spoilers.
Yeah, then we'll go to the spoilers because you see,
Okay.
I got the
Yeah, I
notes.
got you. I mean, overall, like I think I mentioned it. I was telling Mom and Dimitri this that I was the first 3 episodes. Well, I told you this before you started. I think before you finished it or whatever. I was like, I'm watching it. I just gotta. I kind of like gotta grit through those first 3 episodes. The end of the third episode was this turning point, and I was like, oh, that's what this show is about. And so, like, I
Hmm.
think that before, like, it was really really slow. But I thought it was a good, and I honestly I forgot, like, I completely forgot his character from Rogue
Rogue
One.
One.
Honestly, like, he was a pilot. I know he was a big, he was a major character, but like like, you think about it, you put the droid and Jin and him, Cassian Andor is just there in comparison. The droid took over. He stole the show anytime he was on the screen. And anytime he was on the screen, Andor was right next to him. So it's like I forgot Andor was even there. It's like,
Oh,
so like I don't remember. He's not like a character that I remember. I know he was
right.
gonna kill the Jin's dead or whatever. Um,
Yeah, I remember him being kind of a like
yeah,
he just didn't
he was
care.
supposed to
He
assassin.
kills people and he just doesn't
Yeah, I
care.
mean, and that's so, like, the show following him. I was like, yeah, I didn't have a lot of emotions for it early on, but I think that overall, I think the show, I must say, it's like it's really about the development of the rebellion, and just the Rebel Alliance, and so I thought that was a really good, uh, yeah, a good plot line to kind of get through, and so I enjoyed it. I binged it in 3 days, like I said. So
Well, my overall thoughts of the whole series is of the whole thing is this was a darker tone. This is a more serious tone, a more adult. This is a more adult Star Wars, and it did. And I think that's what people liked about Rogue One. This was like because Rogue One was very different. It wasn't all happy, fun, pew pew pew, all that stuff. It was like, oh no, this is like a real thing, and that's what Andor felt like the series. Like, oh, this is. That's why I was like a little more into it. Like, this is almost like Breaking Bad and Star Wars.
yeah,
I mean, nobody's
yeah,
making drugs in it, but you know what I mean. It's a serious
no,
toner,
yeah, yeah.
That's what it really felt like. Like, okay, I'm getting into this. Like, to the point where every time an alien showed up, it threw me off. Like, oh yeah, we're in Star Wars.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like the
So it was like,
non-humanoid looking.
yeah, because I was
Yeah,
so used to the humans. It's like, oh, this is in it, and then you really get to see the Empire, like how they are, how evil they are, and stuff like that.
and yeah, you see the Empire's their evilness, but also just their like day to day working. Like
Yeah,
they're not,
how
because like usually like Star Wars, we see the effects of the decisions that they make, but like, and there's like one, we see a clip of them having a conference, like, in the meeting, but like this series, you see multiple meetings. And they're like, what about this? It's like, no, let's go back. Like they have multiple meetings and
right.
people trying to get promoted, and like this is like
And
workplace.
you don't see so in this series also you don't see any major characters, even though they're around during this time. Leia is around during this time. Darth Vader is around. Obi-Wan, the Emperor, all these people are around, and you
Yeah,
do
so
not see them at all. And
this is like
you
five
mentioned,
years before Rogue One. So
oh, okay,
that's kind of
okay.
the time frame.
Oh, well, if it's 5 years before Rogue One, this is also 5 years after Obi-Wan's show.
Yeah, so it's literally in between the two.
Yeah, in between. Okay, okay. Um, but yeah, you hear they mention the Emperor, but he does not make an appearance, and that makes sense. You know that
Like,
it's
why would he
like
need to go?
right. You don't need to see him all the time. You don't need because he's a big person. You know, he's like he's
It's over
ruling.
the galaxy.
Right, exactly. He's ruling over the galaxy, so you're not going to see him in every scene or nothing like that. It's like you could just hear about him. It's like people. Like you got people that's in government or whatever that's talking about the president, but you ain't going to see the president. You know,
Yeah,
that's kind of how it is.
yeah, that's true.
And I like that. You don't see Darth Vader walking by. What's going on here?
Yeah, yeah, he's
You don't
somewhere
need
else.
to. You don't need
Yeah,
to. It's like, what if you just? That's why I kind of had the idea for making my series because I was like, well, it's like you're just working for the Empire, and it's like that's the way it is, and it's like it's a big galaxy, you know.
yeah, yep.
And so let's go into the nitty gritty of this. We're about to do spoilers. So if you have not watched Andor and you're curious about it, give it a try. And if you just want to hear us spoil everything, then stick
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, my advice is if you're like it's slow, but it's and we're gonna walk through the different kind of they're kind
Yeah,
of
this show
multiple.
is so this show is divided into 4 parts. And
Yeah,
they don't introduce part 1, part 2, but we noticed it as we watched it. Like, okay, this show's
yeah,
because
because it feels
divided
like we're
up.
watching different, and it's not.
Chapters.
It's yeah, it feels like a different chapter. The way it's 'cause there's different, like it feels like
Right.
it could be like if it was like it legit could have been 3 movies.
4
Like
movies, yeah.
the way it's kind of put together because it's completely different characters. They're
Right.
side characters and stuff like that.
Right.
But I was gonna say like watch if you want. I would like if you like stick through the first 2 episodes or the first 3
You
episodes.
can
Like
start with episode 4 if you want.
you could
Honestly.
and watch the recaps because like if you
Yeah.
watch because I was telling Donald this, I was like the recap helped me to like understand exactly what was going on in episode
Me
1.
too. Me
I was
too.
like,
And in all honesty, I watched the show in closed caption so I can see the dialogue because sometimes I'm just like, what? Huh? Oh,
somebody
I'm
could be
reading
listening, like,
it.
why would I give this show a chance? It's like, you talk about
Well,
first
if you
couple
like
episodes
adult
are
stuff,
so
well, that's
druid.
how I feel about Breaking Bad. That's why I compared it to Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad was and Game of Thrones. I was like, the first few episodes of both of those, I'm like,
It's
okay,
really
okay,
slow. Yeah, I
right.
gave
And
Game of
then you
Thrones.
get
I literally watched the first 15 minutes of it. I was like, I can't do this.
so, and
And
that's why I
that's all I
call it more
got.
of an adult show because it's like there's a lot of
Yeah.
dialogue and there's a lot of talking in between people
Yep.
that you don't
There's
know.
like there's the first clip of the first episode is the most action in the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, it
Well,
is.
until the end of the 3rd episode. So it's like,
Right.
okay, he kills 2 people at the very beginning, and that's the whole that is the trajectory, and then you go into the 3rd episode, and it's like, oh wow.
So should I tell everybody what I named the different parts?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
All right. So part 1, I call it the fugitive / backstory.
Okay.
Part 2 is called the heist. Part 3 is called the prisoner, and part 4 I call the funeral.
That's good. I like that
because that's basically the subject of each one
Josh
of them.
is a writer, so he's good at looking at stories and seeing how things are put together. So this is why we get him to do the outline for every podcast.
Yeah, a little behind the scenes. I do
that puts this together. So
yeah,
I like that. I think that's a good thing. So let's talk about part 1, the fugitive.
So, / backstory, because we get a backstory about him as well. Well, so the fugitive part is
because he starts off. He's from the planet Case. Is it Case? Cassian? No, that's his name.
Yeah, his name is Cassian.
His name is Cassian
Andor.
The name of his planet that got destroyed. I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of stuff.
Sad.
But he gets adopted basically. This lady finds him and adopts him.
He's looking for his sister. That's kind of how it starts off.
Yeah. Because he had a sister that was on that planet of orphans. I saw a thing that said the orphan planet.
Oh my goodness. I feel like it
was.
Didn't I see that on something recently? Was that on Rick and Morty? They had a planet of orphans.
No, I don't think. Oh, it was a Simpsons. I don't know.
What was it? Oh, I just saw this though. I'm sorry. I just got to think of this because it was like they were fighting orphans, and it was like it's the orphans. They're fighting on this planet. Anyway, I feel like it might have been. I feel like it was something I saw recently.
Oh, okay. Well, but yeah, they basically showing that he spoke another language and all that stuff. He didn't understand the whole technology. They didn't go into detail. They just kind of show where he came from, but then go into detail of how she adopted him and how he became who he is today and stuff like that. Just show basically toward the end of that little backstory, they showed that his adopted mom was the one that found him.
Rick and Morty.
Yeah,
it was when Rick was saving all the he was the Piss planet.
Oh,
and it was the planet of orphans.
Oh, I gotta watch that episode again.
You don't remember that part?
No, I don't.
Because it was all he was saving the planet, and he was saving the planet of orphans.
Oh goodness!
So
that was Andor's planet.
Yes, that was Andor's planet. So,
but they basically showed, because I know this was kind of important, that I think his mom was part of a rebellion type thing.
Yeah.
That's what it was, because I think they killed a few of those people that attacked their planet or whatever.
And they don't do any
It-
translation of the like you
oh
don't know
yeah,
what they're saying.
right. They don't. Yeah,
So they just show
you
it's
just
another
watch
language and you don't know. You
yeah,
just got to figure out. I kind of like that. It was a little tension, but I was like, I kind of like that, like not knowing what they're saying, but you kind of feel the tension of what's going on.
right. So this was a flashback that helped, I guess, because we were talking about Boba Fett with the flashback. The first 3 episodes does the same thing with the whole flashback thing, but it's about him, um, you know, as a kid on that planet. Because then, meanwhile, when you go into the present day, he's a fugitive because he killed 2 guys, and
Planet
this cop.
Canary, that's the name of it.
Oh, okay. And this cop guy is on his ass looking for Andor, because to the point where the rest of the empire or whatever is going to just sweep it under the rug. Like, well, these guys probably attacked this person.
Yeah,
it was probably self-defense. It
was like 2 random people.
Right. It's weird to say it wasn't a big deal because it was 2 people that died, but at the same time, it was like it was
That's
weird.
how the empire was like. They were like, whatever, what's next on the list? And so Cyril, his name is Cyril. He was like the cop that was like, no, we gotta, like, this is not right. Like, these people died and we need to find justice. So he's all about trying to find justice,
right?
Who killed these cops?
Yeah. And
so
he's a major character of the show,
which I didn't even realize until towards the middle, because they start following him more, and I'm just like,
we meet this guy's mom, like literally
spend time with him at his home. He's eating cereal,
right? They're little. He's not lying. This is true.
It's like his mom is complaining to him about getting a real job.
I do love the introduction of his mom when he shows up and she just slaps him and then hugs him. I bust out laughing.
That was great.
so dramatic.
I think that explained his whole life and why he was motivated to do what he did. So he's all about using the resources he can underground, like not official resources, but trying to find who killed these cops. And I think he figures out somebody. So he starts surveying, asking some stuff. So I thought he knew his name at one point.
Well, yeah,
or his face.
He knew his face. He definitely found out it was Andor. Like,
he found out in the first episode. So that's what made Andor on the run. So he came back to his home, his not original planet, but the place that he grew up, and that's where he was like trying to get
where
resources,
adopted mom and stuff.
Yeah, to get out. So he's like, I got, I'm on the run.
Right,
they after me, and so I need to get enough resources.
Yeah, and he also had like an ex-girlfriend that was helping him out.
Bix.
Yeah, Bix, and I thought she was a pretty cool character too.
Yeah,
I liked her a lot.
I enjoyed her.
Yeah, but she had a asshole boyfriend.
Oh yeah,
that snitched. Like, that's that dude right there, and his ass got killed too. And I didn't feel bad for him.
The first 2 episodes is dealing with that, and then seeing the backstory. And then the 3rd episode is he's getting.
Well, it's still part of that 3. Those 3 episodes, because it's still
all 3 of them.
Yeah, they all. Yeah, like I said, you could watch the 3 as a arc,
as one story.
That's the one arc, because that's where I stopped. I stopped watching. I didn't watch it for a while. I just watched those 3 episodes. And I was like, I'll come back to it. And then when I came back to it, like almost 2 months later, I'm like, oh, this is a brand new arc starting.
Because the 3rd episode ends with. So he's trying to get his, get some money to leave. Like, he's like making a deal, and there's this guy named Luthen.
Is it Lucian or
Luthen?
Luthen, okay.
And so he's like, he's the buyer to this, like, rebel galactic imperial part. And so he's like, well, I'm here, but I think you should join this mission. He's like, what? No, just, whatever. So he kind of ends with like this tension of like this big battle fight scene. Boyfriend gets shot. The cops come and he runs and he ends up meeting Luthen, and they escape. And so it's like, all right, well, now where they're going to go. He's like, well, and that's kind of where we're left off, is like, what's going to happen next? So it's like the end of that episode ends, the backstory ends his fugitiveness, kind of, because he still kind of get fugitives, but it goes into this idea of Luthen's proposal of like, hey, like, there's an opportunity, you can make some money, and he kind of, what I love about this too is like, when he asked Andor about how he like got some part or whatever, and Andor says he just snuck on a ship and got it, and he was like, well, how did you do that? Like, how did you do that? He was like, I just walked on there. Like I knew I was supposed to be there, and they would never
Mm.
think. And he said the Empire would never think that somebody like me could do this. So they
Mm.
underestimate. That's what the idea of. And so that's when I
Mm.
saw like Luthen kind of gave a little smile, like, okay. And I think that's when he was like, this is the guy I need for the mission. That kind of
Mm.
mindset of like willing to walk into the fire and walk into the lion's den and act like you're supposed to be there and have that confidence to know and then understand that the Empire has a problem. But I think that the biggest thing was understanding that the Empire did to his family and to his planet.
Mm-hmm.
So like trying to pull that out of him is kind of what he was trying to do. But I think at the end of the day, it was more about, you know, he was just trying to escape. Andor was about himself. He was like, I gotta get out of here. Then he made him a deal. It was like, all right, well, I give you some money. How about that?
Right.
All right, I'll do it for money.
Yeah.
So
So
enter the second part.
yeah. Part 2, which is my favorite part, is the
Okay.
heist. Yeah, I love the heist. The heist got me into it. Was what got
Yeah.
me into it. I was like, okay, this is interesting because you meet a bunch of new characters. Forget about the characters from part 1. Now we're into part 2, and you're introduced. Well, you're introduced to, what's that girl's name that was running thing? Because she's a main
Yeah,
character.
she's amazing.
Vale.
Vale.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
yeah.
like
We
the
introduced to Vale, who's
at the
becomes a
beginning.
main character.
I did not know her. She was huge, but yeah.
Yeah. She's a
So
main character. And then she has a crew of people. Like, oh, we're on this planet. We're trying to do this heist and stuff like that. And then Luthen set it up, basically introduce Andor to Vale. It's like, yeah, and she's like, who is this guy? He's like, oh, he's gonna help you and stuff. There's a lot of mistrust going on, which is understandable because they, so the heist, I gotta talk about this. You got people on the inside. And
that's
that's
really
what
cool.
that was cool. So you got this guy who's a lieutenant. He works for the Empire. He's a lieutenant. This black dude. I forgot his
He's
name. I'm gonna call him.
Okay. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say he's over the whole like base. He's the boss of the whole base.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, like he's literally. If you
Wow.
remember, you see him. He's walking around saying, "All right, now I'm gonna give you. You go here. You do this. You do that." So he's really the boss of the base.
Yeah, which is crazy because we're so used to seeing people that work for the Empire, especially if that's a higher up like that, be the bad guys. And this guy's like, I'm done working for these guys. Of course, it had to be a black dude. Little side note. Little side note. I noticed in Star Wars, black folks don't like working for the Empire. Almost every think about it, Jason. Almost every black person in the series that worked for the Empire is like, nah, fuck this shit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which kind of feels like real life a little bit. I mean, think about it. Every black character. I'm gonna pause for a second and point out because Lando was helping Darth Vader. He's like, no, that's not the deal. He turned on them.
Okay.
He turned on them. You had Finn, who was like a formal stormtrooper. I ain't doing this shit no more. You had Reva. You had Reva, third sister. It was like, I'm not working under Vader. I'm trying to get his ass. So now you have this lieutenant, and you have this other black dude that's part of that group, that heist, that was a formal stormtrooper. So I'm like,
that's true.
What is with the black people in Star Wars?
No, that's a good point.
Which really makes sense because I'm like, if I worked for the Empire, I'd probably be the same way. Like, man,
yeah. So, but yeah, Lieutenant Gorn, that's his name.
Okay.
So yeah, he was like the boss over that whole the planet that they were on. They had like it was like a imperial base that we were developing certain things. They were like, he's been on that planet for like 7 years. So he was a part of that place and he was tired of it, right? He was ready to get rid of it. So I don't know how they figured out, we don't know their history and their background. We only know that they're ready to take this base down.
And they were
the whole point was stealing the payment for like a wage for the people for like a weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
For like a week's worth of pay or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot of money. You had the former stormtrooper guy, which was a black dude, and I liked how they were practicing to look like they were part of the soldiers. Like there was a lot of there was a lot of setting up. Like we're going to do this and do that. We're going to steal this. We're going to go into this crate and we're going to fly off on the ship. And they try to make sure Andor. That's why Andor is there to fly this certain ship.
Right, yeah, because he's a pilot, which we know that from Rogue One.
Right. So it was just cool seeing them like those 3 episodes of them just setting up, just trying to and to the point where I was only going to watch 2 episodes, and then that third one I was like, well, the third one's the actual
third
heist.
One is the eye.
Yeah, and I was
like they were using this galactic event to like as cover. So it was like, this is the deadline. This only happens every 3 years. This is what we're going to do to be able to sneak in and sneak out without anybody knowing. But we want to make a hit and hit the damage for the Empire, so they can know that we mean business. Because like what happens, this is what's funny, is that when he was proposed, when Andor got the proposal to do this, Luthen was like, "This is the plan. We're gonna do this." And Andor said, "You trying to take down a whole garrison like that with how many people?" Like that's suicide. That's what he said.
Right, yeah.
Which I thought that was so foreshadow of how he died. You know what I mean? Like if you think about fast forward to Rogue One, how Andor died, he went on a suicide mission to get the Death Star plans. He went on his planet. He went on the base. He went not just one. He went on the base planet where they were storing this, the most secure spot. When the whole Rebel fleet said no, they went knowing that they would not probably come back. And so, but this is the first time he's introduced to like doing something outside of himself. And he's like, hey, but he's doing it for money. It's like, you gonna take down a whole garrison? That's suicide. I thought that was a good foreshadow.
Well, I felt like the whole heist thing was a good foreshadow because I think most of the characters died in that heist. Only
just the black people.
No. I think 3 people survived. You had Vale survived, and Andor survived, and that other chick, Cinta, I think her name was.
Yeah, Cinta.
Which
Vale and Cinta relationship?
Cinta was, man, I think they are together, but Cinta was, man, I was like, Cinta was beautiful. Every time Cinta was on screen, I was like, you know that meme with that dude? I was crushing on Cinta.
You were creeping. On Cinta.
I wasn't creeping.
That meme is a creeper. That meme is a creeper.
I was creeping. I was like, I was looking at Cinta like, man, Cinta, woo, she was gorgeous.
But no, I feel
every
like
time she was on screen.
Vale and Cinta definitely were like in a relationship. There, and they saw the tension, but yeah, that's the crew, that's who survived. And the other character that
Nemec
was,
you talking about the young guy?
Nemec.
I gotta talk about Nemec.
Please talk about Nemec. He said it on the phone as soon as he said it.
Nemec had "I'm going to die" written on his shirt.
Yeah, it's like
he was very hopeful, wide-eyed, young. He's all like, "We're gonna get him," and when this is all over with, and,
when this is all over, we're together. We'll eat our porridge together and live in peace and harmony. He said so much hope.
Anytime you have a character like that on a series or a movie, they're going to die.
It was. I mean, I can't call it. It definitely like he. And it was sad the way he died too. Like,
it was bad. I was actually hoping, I was rooting for him to live, even though I knew he wasn't. It was like, it's like sometimes I watch a movie or something. I'm like, I know this character's gonna die, but I'm still hoping like maybe they'll change their mind and make him live.
But I liked how they set him up. He was an interesting character. I mean, he was talking about the Empire, which is this is what's I think good about this show too. Like it's showing why there is a rebellion against the Empire. And so like, like we saw the perspective of, the Jedi and all that stuff in the past. And it's like the way, and we see the evil of them killing, people. But then what I like about this, it shows the corruptness of the government, which I think is commentary, to corrupt governments, like, so like, that's as I think about this, like, as he was writing his manifesto and sharing about that, like, how we can be free and how we can do our own thing. And, all this kind of stuff that the Empire doesn't allow, he's kind of giving that and restoring, almost giving some hope. And so what's cool is that he's trying to talk to Andor. Andor is not giving him any like attentions. Like, he's like, you got, I'm wearing almost like I'm wearing you down. Just keep listening. And after he dies, he gives him like he leaves his book with him. And I think that's where like he's like, it's the audio reading digital book or whatever. And he's listening and reading it. But like I think that's a lot of they give, and I want to rewatch it, but like there's like certain clips that they allow you to hear from his book. I think that's definitely pieces of why Andor has a shift of his attitude, because it's like he still, because after the heist, he did his part. He said, "I want my money. I'm gone." Right. So he wasn't about the revolution. Like he wasn't like, even with that, he wasn't about the revolution. Like he was like, I did my part. I'm gonna get my money, even though he could have got a lot more. He was like, I just want my part. I ain't in all this stuff. Y'all do whatever y'all gotta do. I'm getting out of here.
Right. So let's get to the next part. Part 3, The Prisoner.
Yep.
My second favorite part.
So I mean, because the thing is, Andor left. He said, "I'm taking my money and I'm leaving." He was retired. He went on a beach planet.
A beach
had
planet.
His women, had his money.
Right. Yep.
He was just like, I'm done. Like, this is my life.
This is literally the middle of the show. This is literally the middle of the show, so you know something's gonna happen.
So he gonna go grab something to eat. After his night with his woman, he's like, "What do you want? I want some breakfast. All right, I'll get you some breakfast, baby. Let's go."
He did stop by home. He did stop by home and try to get his mom to come with him.
Oh yeah, that's
she was like, "No, I ain't going nowhere."
Yeah, that's true.
So he went off and he was like, "All right."
So he's like,
"We can go." So he's like, "Well, change his name."
Yeah.
Which what I like about these different parts is he goes by a different name in each part. Feels like
the first name he went by. Well, the name that he was going by when he was on the heist was Clem. Was his dad's name.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was his dad. That's right. The guy that. Oh, that's right. The guy, because it was the guy. It was a guy that found him too. So it was a guy and a girl that found him. So I forgot about that.
That was his dad. So he went by Clem.
Yeah.
So what was the name that he went by?
Keith or something. Kif.
So who was that?
I don't know. He just made up a name. That's the name he was going. That was the name he was going by when he was already on that planet.
Oh, okay.
When he was getting away. Right. That was his alias or whatever.
Yeah.
So he goes by that during this whole thing. So he gets arrested, and that is such an unfair scene. I was like, to the point where I'm like, did someone set him up?
Or I was like, is he black?
Well, he's not white, so we know that.
Right.
So he's like walking by, and this stormtrooper harasses him, because stormtroopers are like cops. And then like, because he looks nervous and stuff. He's nervous because there's some people running by and they get attacked, and he's nervous because, of course, he's still known for doing wrong. He's still a fugitive. Still a fugitive. So the stormtrooper was actually kind of smart and recognized that and was like, "No, you look like you up to some shit." And I mean, he was right. He just didn't know what it was. And so they arrested him, and they sentenced him to prison for 6 years, and so now we have the whole section when he's in prison.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I gotta get out. And so that whole prison scene is interesting because, like, they're forcing him to work. And then we meet Andy Serkis, who is a awesome character in this show, because I didn't know what he was gonna be when you introduced Andy Serkis. I'm like, is he gonna be a villain or a hero or what? And I'm like, this dude's a hero. You can't tell at first because he's yelling at everyone and stuff. He's like, get down, he's like yelling. He's in people's ass. He's like, he's kind of an asshole. But by that second episode, you're like, no, this dude is a hero for real. Like, I loved his character. And they do a whole prison break because they find out that nobody is getting out. Because Andy Serkis is like, I only got 256 days left.
Right, he's counting down.
Right, and that's what they had an old guy that was counting down, like he's only got like a few days left, but then he dies of a stroke, and the doctor, one of the other prisoner doctors, whoever says like, yeah, something happened on the other floor where they thought they was going to be leaving. One person thought he was going to be leaving, and they just transferred him to another floor.
Yeah.
And then other people found out.
Cycle.
Exactly. And then when they found out, they killed everybody on that floor. And so he told Andy Serkis and Andor this, and they were like, and Andor's like, we got to get out of here now.
Yeah.
And you can get us out of here. and Andy Serkis is all conflicting because he don't know what to do because he's been a loyal prisoner this whole time.
Yeah.
And then they have their prison break.
Yep, which is amazing. So the thing about this prison is that they don't have the prisoners are it's kind of a minimum security in a sense. They're not like, they're not it doesn't look like horrible living conditions, but no one has shoes on. So like they have the floors are electric pulse, and so that's how they discipline them. So that's how they keep people from running away. And then they're all building this one part over and over and over again. It's just one same star-shaped square, like pieces part, and just constantly building it. And they have to beat these records, but they're doing it a lot of those parts. And so same part. And so the break starts off with Andor like hitting this water pipe in the bathroom, and it's like, what is he doing? Like I was like, why is he doing this? And so with that ends up making the electricity kind of like spark when the water goes on the shock the floor, and that was brilliant. And they escape, they get out, and that's really awesome. So the whole prison revolts, which I think is another shout out to Andor's growth of rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's like he's like, I think he's thinking about, what, this is a corrupt system, and it's not just about minding my own business and doing my own thing, because even if I do that, I'm still a part of this broken system, and I got to be a part of changing it. So I think that's kind of like you mentioned, like the origin story. This is definitely like the growth of a rebel. Like we're following how a rebel becomes a rebel.
Yeah, it is. And we're seeing on the outside. So on the outside of Andor, there's a steady story going on. There's no parts to that one. There's a big steady story going on. We're following this lady named Mon. She's like a senator or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So we're following her story nonstop. We find out that what's her head, Vale, is her cousin. And we're following the Veil and stuff, and like what they're doing. It's kind of hard to keep up for me, for them, what was going on. Like they just
their story arc. Like you see, it is an interesting thing because I mean, like you see Luthen's kind of cover. He's like this,
he's like the collector on Guardians of the Galaxy.
And so he even creates. Like, I love. There was a moment where he like puts on his wig and like has his little face expression like move. Like I see he's like creating a persona,
character,
which is really interesting. Like this because he's on this wealthy space and he's selling all this wealthy stuff and dealing all this stuff. But you can tell that he hates it. Like you can see that he really does hate it.
This is customer service face.
Yeah,
this is customer service face.
And so it's her name is Mon Mothma.
Yeah.
And so she is on Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. And Rogue One. She's on Rogue
One. Yeah. She talks to the Morgana's Leia's dad in that.
Yeah, like, she's part of the rich elite. So that's part of the rebellion.
She is funding the rebellion, basically.
Yeah.
And so it's like she's the character that's like she sees the corruptness of the Empire. She's a part of it, which is what's the tension of the insider. This is why I love this. The show is interesting because it shows the inside people, the rebellion. What are they rebelling? Who's rebelling? Not just the outsiders. The insiders don't like this either.
Right. That's what's cool about the show. Yeah. You're seeing like that. You're really seeing
like she's living in an amazing house. She's got all this stuff. Like she's an elite person. She ain't got to worry about those kind of problems, but she don't like it. And so she's trying to fund the rebellion. And so she's figuring out how to do that, funneling money through places. And so a lot of her arc is trying to cover up the fact that she's been funneling money and trying to make sure that it doesn't get found out.
Right.
That's really what she's doing. And then she's hearing about, the revolution, which what I love also is like the heist gets so much attention, which is like, because we didn't really talk about that, like from the response of the Empire, they're like, "What? A whole garrison?" Like they're like, "Oh my goodness! Like we gotta shut them down. We gotta shut them down." No. That's why they got so strict on everybody, and I think that's one of the reasons why Andor got arrested is because he was literally just minding his business, walking to the stove, and somebody else was running behind him, and they profiled him and got him and arrested him. That's kind of what it was. I mean, he was being black in America, so that's what happened. And but because of the strict rules of like what was going on, that's kind of how they did it. And it was a response of like, we're going to show the Empire that everybody else on all these other planets that we didn't even take no mess. And so that made it even more intent for the people on the inside to like come up with the resources to stop this.
Yeah, so that leads us into part 4, the funeral. The funeral was that's basically the big climax of the show. So whose funeral? Unfortunately, Andor's mom passes away. And this is to lure Andor out. I mean, they didn't kill her; she just passes away. I don't think they didn't kill her.
No, they didn't talk about it. Like, she just died of
she just
natural
died.
causes.
I guess so. But so they were like, because everybody's looking for Andor. That's one thing was suddenly everybody, because all the heist, the prisoner thing, the fugitive thing, everything leads up to we need to get Andor. Like everybody, the Empire is talking about him.
Yeah,
like he's getting attention now.
There was a moment where they were looking, because like Cyril was a key part of that. He was looking for Andor from day one, and so he got a a job into some kind of database and just kept looking for Andor. He's using his resources, like basically Googling Andor every day and trying to find him until the people up is like, why are you always looking for this dude?
Right.
Like, well, he did some stuff that was crazy on this planet. It's like, they were like, what planet was that? It was like, oh, that planet. And they start talking about a lot of what happened on that. And that was like, we're looking. So like one of the other ladies that was in she was at the top, I forgot her name, but she was like trying to prove her power.
Yeah, I remember who you're talking about though. Yeah.
And so she's, trying to basically boss her way to the top. And she's
she's the one that tortures what's her head?
Bix.
Yeah, she tortures Bix to find out where Andor is and stuff.
Because they're trying to find her because they found the part that they were negotiating, like the Imperial part that Andor was trying to sell to Luthen. They found it, and so when they found it, they're like, "Oh, this is a evidence of like, they're trying to fund the rebellion with these kind of things, and whoever stole this is probably part of the rebellion. Like, this is probably a major person." And I was like, "Oh, well, who sold it? Andor was selling it. Who was buying it? Let's try to figure out who that person is." They called him Axis. So like, who is this Axis person? Which is Luthen the whole time. Oh, so they're trying to figure out. They're trying to find him
because they know Luthen's trying to kill Andor as well.
And he's trying to Luthen's trying to kill Andor to close the gap of the heist situation, so he can like tie any loose ends because he don't really trust him.
Exactly. So yeah, you got several people after Andor.
So Andor was not supposed to go back home. Like we're like, and I was like, okay, he's good because like he's in jail, so he ain't even gonna make it to the funeral. Well, he was able to get out in time to find out that his mama died. So where he gonna go? He gonna go to the planet. And so he's like, I'm gonna go see what's gonna happen. And so
it's a good thing he still got friends there though. That was like, hey, man,
that's the climax. Everybody comes to the planet.
Everybody's at the funeral. Yeah, everybody's at the funeral.
One thing that I noted that there was another review that I listened to was talking about the intro music and how each episode had added instruments to it. And to the last episode had the drums and all the music and the symphony, and it kind of reflected the sound of the funeral procession.
Okay,
I thought that was really, really
wow. Good. I guess the show is deeper than I thought.
I mean, it's really like I watched a couple reviews. I was like, wow, I didn't even notice those connections at all. Because I'm like, the thing about it is, I'm wondering, as I watched it, I have not heard anybody complain about it. I've heard people acknowledge that it's slow and it's like you got to, once you get the pace of the show, it's brilliant writing. A couple other things I heard was like, it feels, I think you mentioned this too, like it feels real. Like, and the thing is, it's not green screened, it's built like actual
Yeah, it is.
space, and there's background people that are actually there. They're just, you know, having a drink after work. Like you see the like the reality of like, and I feel like it's so grounded since that it's like you feel the grittiness, and I think that's what, like, you compared it to Breaking Bad. Like you feel that the just the motion of life, and that's why like him sitting the cereal eating cereal, pouring the milk in the cereal, like that's the kind of stuff that's like, oh wow, like those are simple things that make you feel grounded. Or him having a bad signal when he's calling his friend to kind of get it like on the phone call, like that's the kind of stuff that's like, oh wow, like this is actually like, you know, just a normal day, but he's like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
because I felt it when he got arrested. I was like, even though I've never been arrested, but I felt it. I was like, this
Yeah,
does feel real. Like, wow, I could have been just walking by and get attacked by a
yeah.
stormtrooper.
Well, it was
It doesn't
the
feel
person that
fantasy.
arrested
Yeah.
the person that arrested him. Well, not the person. It was the droid, which I thought was also really interesting
Oh yeah, the
because
way
that
he
was the
manhandled
same.
him like
Well,
that.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that's the same droid in Rogue One, the same design.
Yeah, yeah. Which
So that was a really
yeah,
interesting. Which
I
were
was
they were
like,
like best friends in Rogue One.
so it makes me wonder what's gonna happen later, like if, once season 2 comes out. Because it's like, oh, this story's not over. You
Yeah,
know.
which they're already admitted it. They are doing a season 2.
I mean,
So
it's it left open ended, so it's
it
like, oh, this
definitely
is
ended.
yeah. It's like, well, you can't just end the show. We don't know what happens,
Well,
especially that
we
the
know what
cliffhanger.
happens at the
Well,
very end.
I mean, there's a gap now. There's a for example, Obi-Wan wouldn't need a season 2, but I think
Yeah,
Andor would. Like Obi-Wan could
yeah.
be like, all right, well, this nothing else happens until A New Hope. But with this one, it's like, no, some stuff happens between here and Rogue One.
But yeah, I think it's because the show is more about the development and not just the end. Because I think that like with which is why I've valued Rogue One as as a movie, is because we knew how it was going to end. Like Rogue One, we knew exactly what was going to happen at the end. They're going to get
Hmm.
the star plans. They're going to be destroyed because people die. Like we know that the planets will die. We knew they were going to get the Death Star plans. We knew all of that, and so it's kind of like we knew it. But I think in the midst of it, we still wanted to follow every second of it because it was good development on the characters. And I think that's how this show is. It's like the character is getting me drawn in to Andor, his world, his problems, his development as a rebel.
Yeah.
And I think that is like,
I think,
real fun.
and the other part is he was raised by a rebel because his
His
mom,
mama,
even
woo!
in death, she
Let's talk
starts a
about his
riot.
mama.
She starts
Oh
a
my
riot after
goodness,
she dies. How the hell do you do
man.
that?
Man, she was committed to her home. She said, I ain't going nowhere. When he was ready to get her, like, let's retire, let's go somewhere else. Like, no, I gotta be here. This is my space. And she stood up, and she knew when she was dying, she had a one opportunity to speak truth. She said the empire is evil, and they
She
need to be
left the
taken
message.
down.
Yeah, she left the message through the droid and stuff.
Yeah,
And
which is
so
they do that often. I like that. Like the they shout out to first time we see in episode 4, with Obi-Wan and Princess Leia. But yeah, that's what's up. She definitely
yeah,
started an immediate riot as soon as she finished talking.
right. And
And the
it's
kid that threw the bomb, they showed him building the bomb at the beginning of the
yeah, they
episodes.
did. Yep.
And that's like I didn't even notice him. He wasn't throughout the other episodes, but he was connected to the guy that was the shopkeep of the place that they were always calling. When Bix called Luthen, that
Yeah.
shop, the shop owner was one of the guys that got killed by the people that came in. I think that kid was
Mm.
maybe related to him or something like that.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
he was ready for the revolution.
Wow. So that's what it's like. This is showing sparks of the rebellion. Like, oh, we
Yep.
need to rebel against these assholes and the
Yep.
empire, and it's just but it's a little bit at a time. So because you
Yes.
don't see anybody in rebel suits or nothing like that, the fighters or nothing like that. So
No,
this is
no.
definitely the
This is pre a lot. Like I feel like there's like sparks, like you said, but not like a full alliance. I think they're
yeah.
developing. They're growing. I think that's what made the attack on the garrison, the heist, so important because it gave hope to people that was like, wait a minute, you can take down the empire. Because I
Mm.
mean, you think about the fact that it's like this is impossible to take down, and it's like, why? How would we ever do it? But like these 5, 6, 7, 5, 6 people took down a whole garrison
It
and
was 7
got
altogether.
away with it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
So yeah, all right. And then of course, it leaves. The cliffhanger is Andor basically telling Luthen he can kill him because he
Yeah.
meets
So
up with
they.
Luthen.
So yep. So they end. Yeah. That's he gets. They find him on this. He sends Bix off and everybody else off on the planet somewhere else, and he ends up facing Luthen face to face. It's like, all right, you got two options.
Right, you can turn me in or you can kill me. And
Yep.
Luthen just kind of smiles.
Looks at him. Like,
So
what is he
we
gonna do now?
know
We know
Luthen
he's
is not
gonna
going to
kill
kill
them. Oh.
because Luthen is a complicated character. Luthen is he could be a good guy or a bad guy. It's weird. I think he leans a little bit more to a bad guy, but he's on the good side. That's
Yeah,
the thing about
things. Yeah, he does things non-traditional, and so he doesn't mind casualties for the greater cause.
Right.
So I feel like he has a mission in mind to take down the Empire, and he doesn't mind anything that happens in the process because he knows that the Empire is such a huge, there might be some casualties though. He's willing to make sacrifices.
I think that's kind of how we're going to see Andor later. Because I remember one thing I remember about Andor in Rogue One is he was kind of that way. That was his reputation, where it's like he was on the good side, but he don't care who he kills for the greater good.
That's why I was like, is he going to kill Jen's dad or not? That was
right.
And he decided not to, but the dude
right.
anyway.
And that was actually that was actually out of his character.
Yeah.
Like, that was a character growth for him, and you kind of knew that in that movie. So, which means that Andor doesn't give a fuck.
So yeah, I mean, that's the first thing we see is him killing 2 people.
Right. So he doesn't, it's like, he kills a guy after the heist. I forgot, we didn't talk about that.
A couple of folks. He definitely kills a few people.
Yeah, one of his teammates, one of the guys who helped him, and the guy was like talking about splitting the money 50-50, and he just kills him.
That dude in immediately.
Right. And then he went to Vale and said, "Hey, that dude was going to betray you."
Yeah,
but he's still holding on towards Vale. Like, but I'm out of here. I need to go.
Give me my money. I'm gone.
Right. All right. So, what were you going to say?
I was going to say one character we didn't mention. That I thought was an interesting connection was Saul Guerrero. Saul. Forrest Whitaker.
Oh, okay.
His name is Saul.
Oh, okay.
SAW.
Because I know what he was going to do. I know he's a major character for Rogue One.
Yeah, so I mean, like the fact that
I think he's in, what's the name? I think he's in the cartoons.
He's obviously a part of the rebellion.
Right.
He's not like he's kind of like a gangster type personality type. Like, but he has his own mission. He has his own crew. But like, it's part of the people that's like obviously like he's protected himself. But seeing Luthen connect with him and network with him, there is tension because he doesn't take credit. Luthen doesn't take credit for the heist. He was like, "Was that you?" And he was like, "Was that you?" I was like, "Well, if it was you, good job." So he did good at that, like not taking any kind of credit for it. And so, but I think he did in that conversation with Saul and Luthen. You see Luthen's willingness to risk people's lives for the greater good because they're like, "We need to go save this other rebel." He was like, "Well, do we?" And so that's kind of that. But I like. I mean, he wasn't a major character in this. He just had a couple parts, but I thought it was a good like cameo, kind of like to weave in the time period to know like this is happening because he definitely was a major part in Rogue One.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of things we're probably missing, but I think we covered the gist of the show. So favorite characters. So I purposely didn't mention this character. There's another character we didn't talk about, and this character was my favorite character. I think I definitely have 2 favorite characters. This character is my favorite character. Well, it might be a tie between 2 characters. All right. So the character we didn't mention was B. The droid. I loved B. His little stuttering. So I was like, I know, I had such heart for him. I never felt bad for a droid. Because my biggest tearjerker part was when the mom died. And he was like, "Where's Marina? What was her name? Marina or something? Marina."
Yeah.
It's like, "Where is she?" And it was like, "Well, she's not here, B. But I was supposed to go with her." I was like, I felt so bad for him.
Marva.
Where's Marva? Where's
Yep.
Marva? And because
Yeah.
he'll stutter, it makes you
Oh
make it
my
feel like he's like a
goodness.
little kid.
Yes. Yep. That was hands down. That droid had so much personality. He was hard headed. You know, talk back to you.
Right.
You know, but
When Andor
love.
said, yeah, Andor told him he was leaving, but you said that before.
Yep. And then when he was funny because like when they were leaving, there was another scene after she died, and he was like, one of the guys was like, "All right, B, it's time to go." He's like, "Well, I'm charging."
Right. Yeah,
He's
I
like,
remember.
"You're doing that. You've been doing it all day. We got to go." Well, can you stay? Can we stay here for tonight? You know, because it was his home, and that was
Right.
missing Marva. So like that was like you felt they didn't show her die, but seeing, which is like the voice actor for B made you feel because it's like you have no face expressions, you know,
Right.
like you literally have lights going on and off and a couple of pieces moving up and down, you know, and then
Right. Right.
but the tone of voice, the stuttering, like it made you feel all the feels.
I know.
So yeah,
I was like,
great
poor B. I
job
want to hug him.
to the actor
I want to
that
hug
did
a
that. If you're
droid.
listening to this, voice actor,
Yeah.
uh, I think whatever your name is, you
Yeah,
did
I
an
know.
amazing job.
My other favorite character was Andy Serkis's character in the Prison Break. I loved
Mm,
him. Like I said, he did great. I loved him. I was
yeah,
like, I felt bad for him when they were all jumping and he was like, I
he
can't
said he
swim.
couldn't swim, man. That
Right. I was
was
like, what? But what happens to him?
yep.
But he was ready to die. He said that. He said, I'm already
Yeah,
dead.
yeah. That was a powerful. That was definitely a powerful a moment. So
Yeah, yeah. So he was my other favorite character. Like both, I love both of them equally. I was like,
yeah,
those are really
those are
good
good.
characters.
That
What
was
about for
good.
you?
I loved. I really did love Lieutenant Gorn.
Mm,
I
yeah,
feel
he was
like
cool.
he the way he was able to code switch, you know, so well. I mean, he knows how to be black in America, you know. So
He
like,
does.
so it's like, dude was able
You
to
think?
talk the
Do you
language.
think what they cast a couple black people in this just to show you what it was like? Is that what it was? Do
I
you think that's?
mean,
It kind of felt like that. I felt
because
them.
I
I
mean,
felt them.
his role is middle management. Like he's not high, he's not super high, but he's managing one garrison on one planet, you know, like
Mm,
that maybe they're stealing resources to fuel something, but it's like whatever he's doing is minimum. But one of the things that he said when he got caught with the boss guy that they were
yeah, the
like
guy said you'll hang for this.
yeah, he said, "You'll hang for this." And then he was like, "Man, what I did for you for the last 7 years, I deserve worse." He said that. I was like,
Right.
wow. So like, but the fact that he was in the position of power, and his position was highly influential. Like he knew the language, he knew the culture, he knew the timing. He was able to train. He was able to stay under the radar. He was able to do so much. He was brilliant,
Hmm.
brilliant in his position and in his connection with the revolution. And like, there's so much. Like, and that's the thing is like, you think about people like that, there's a lot of people like that. Just thinking about our like, you know, history. There's a lot of people like Lieutenant Gorn that we don't know about, you know,
Mm,
that
hmm.
stood up for against some of their oppression, that were in certain positions of power, that was able to make some influence, that don't have books written about them, that don't have, you know,
Mm,
ideas about them, but they were majorly influential to the culture, to the movement, to where we are
hmm.
today. And that's why I loved like following him and seeing his tension and seeing both the moment that he's in, like he's talking to the characters like as a position of power, he's telling everybody what to do as a boss, but then seeing the fact, and he sacrificed him, like he literally died for the movement, and it's like, dude, he's a martyr. So yeah,
Mm.
that's my favorite character.
Wow.
So yeah.
Any second favorites?
um you know, I kind of liked uh I I liked the Cyril.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, if he's
Man, he was probably my
interested.
least favorite
I mean,
character.
the fact his consistency, he was funny. Like it's like trying to be funny, but like he has his moral care. Like I did not like. I liked him to not like him, but because like he was a nagging like character in that sense of like wish he didn't do what he did, but he was unapologetic. He was consistent in his character. He was willing to. He got tortured. He got questioned, and so it's like he even stood up for his beliefs. He was willing to be at the bottom. He wasn't position in the power. He was he was dispensable. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't, but like he was making sure that he did what he can do good of his cause. So
Right. He was very
I thought he was
noble in
interesting.
his
Yeah,
way.
he was
Yeah.
absolutely noble for it. He did all the. I mean, he was for the wrong cause,
Yeah, he was
and
an example of somebody that's very influenced by the empire, just trying to do their job, but they could still screw him over. That's
yeah.
basically what he was. He was like, "But I work for you. I'm doing the right thing." And they're like, "So, that's
Mhm.
basically because they treated
They
him
don't
pretty
care about him at
badly."
the end of the day. Yeah, exactly. It's like he's doing all this stuff for them, but they don't care about him at the end of the day.
Then that shows you
He's
the empire
dispensable.
for real.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
like he
that
don't
that
care
really
about
does show
him.
you the empire how they work. He's a good example. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, very good point. All right, so how would you rate this show? I'm gonna rate this show. For me, it's a, and I'll tell you why. It's a low replay, but which means it's better than Obi-Wan and Boba Fett. Not as good as Mandalorian for me. I love Mandalorian to death. And it's because there was a lot of slow parts and it was really hard for me to follow at times. Not saying the show was over my head, but there was a lot of dialogue. So, warning for those people who like, but that's how Breaking Bad was kind of for me. If I can watch Breaking Bad again and be like, oh, there's a lot of things I missed. Um, so I had to watch the show in closed caption because I was like, and I still couldn't keep up. So that's why I'm saying some stuff just kind of lagged, but I could keep up with whatever Andor was doing. I always kept up with
Yeah,
whatever he was doing.
no, that
Like
makes sense.
there was no boring parts for me for him. So just a replay, like a low replay. But I still would
Okay.
like to see season 2. Like I'm looking forward to season 2.
Yeah,
Like when it ended, I was like, oh man, I do want to see a season 2. So
yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm thinking like I keep saying the first 3 episodes were really, really slow. And I cannot multitask and watch this show. Just because I feel like I would miss something if I wasn't paying attention.
and
Because
that's
there,
probably why I missed stuff because I was
yeah,
multitasking.
and it's not just the dialogue too. It's like there's certain characters that are moving around, walking around, interacting. And there's a lot of like a lot of shout outs and Easter eggs that I am unaware of. That I'm gonna have to watch a
Yeah.
couple of YouTube videos about because I'm like, I was trying to figure out the pieces and how it connects and how it, what they're working on. And so this is one of the, the cool things is like the the after credit scene. Did you see that?
No. I did not. I definitely did not know there was an after credit. All right. Here we go. Tell me about it. What happens? I did not
It's very
know that.
simple. It's very simple.
Okay.
It's literally just a shot. You see the part that they were working
Yeah.
on the planet, like on that
In that
in the
prison.
prison.
Yeah.
You see the part and you're zoomed out and you see the Death Star.
I figured. That's not
And
that.
so like their one part is like
Yeah. That
multiple
makes
parts
sense.
and pieces
That actually makes a lot of sense.
of the big picture, which I thought is really it shares the story like of the show. The show, there's a lot of little parts of the show for the whole. This character is one part of a bigger,
Yeah, it
thing. Like
shows
I
that
think
this is a real huge. Yeah, this shows that this
but it's like
is a
he's
galaxy type
one
thing.
part.
Yeah.
But his part is a small part. Like he's a character. Like I'm talking about, like Lieutenant Gorn is like he's a small part. He's not a Andor is not. He's a pilot. He's not a Jedi. He's not. He doesn't wield the Force. He's like
Right.
he's a pilot that flies for the rebellion to help them get the Death Star plans at the end of the day.
Right.
He's like, but it's a small part, and every little part is important. And so that's what I liked about the show. So honestly, taking out the first 3 episodes. I want to rewatch them and rewatch Rogue One as it together. So I mean, high replay on that end, but also, I would say low sequel, like because I really, the level. I feel like as I rewatch it, I'm definitely want to know. I want to follow these characters some more, like the ones that are alive. I want to see. I actually want to see Andor. You can get to Rogue One. Like you can build enough story to get to Rogue One
Yeah.
that'll be healthy. Maybe 1 or 2 seasons more to kind of say like, all right, this is how this is his growth and who he is. So
Right.
yeah, that's why I say sequel, because I think that there's enough story to work with and enough, and I think that more light to shine on the parts that we don't know about the Empire, that we can kind of learn about, in the development of the revolution and the rebellion. So sequel for me. I said yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay.
Low sequel.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool. Well, all right. Tell everyone where to follow you at.
Well, you can catch me on smileyjason.com, or smileyjason underscore on most platforms, social stuff.
And you can also catch me. I'm going to promote my website as well, propjosh.com. I'm going to be promoting it a lot more for 2023. Big plans for
Okay.
2023 for Prop Josh. Also follow me on Instagram as propjosh underscore productions, and Prop Josh on YouTube, and Prop Josh on TikTok, all that fun stuff. So, any final thoughts? Because like my final thought is, yeah, I want to see more stuff like this. Where it seems like the better Star Wars is when they break away from the main story, because Mandalorian is not part of the main story, and that's what I like about him. He's a side character that we're following, But then when you get back to one of the main characters is Boba Fett, and when you get back to the main characters is Obi-Wan, but then you go back to the side character again, is Andor. So I'm like, this is a universe, this is a galaxy.
Ahsoka is going to be. She's a
kind
main
of
character.
She's a main character. That's what I'm saying.
Literally,
like that's why I'm doing a series where it's about a stormtrooper. Where it's like if I was in Star Wars, and it's just gonna be me working for the Empire, and it's like I want to see something like that. Somebody comes out with like a comedy or drama or whatever that's about a stormtrooper, I would totally tune in.
yeah. Like I said, it's kind of like Lower Decks, the animated Star Trek show.
If they did a Lower Decks Star Wars,
you can write it.
maybe. I don't feel like I know enough about Star Wars. I feel like there's a lot of Star Wars things that goes over my head, but that's why I'm like, hey, take that little part and just work on that. Like, what if make it like a workplace comedy type thing. So I like that. Like, Star Wars do more stuff like that for real.
That's your final thoughts.
Yeah, everybody doesn't have to be a Jedi.
That's it. That's it. Everybody didn't have to be a Jedi. You can be the best Andor of you that you can be. Your part matters.
And that, hey, look, so a little bit of a rant. That's what was cool about Andor is like, you don't have to be a Jedi. You can be working for the Empire. You can be working for the bad guys and still be part of the rebellion. That's what's cool. Like, you could be anybody. You can just be a regular person. It's like, you don't have to be special, and it's like you're still special because you're part of the rebellion and stuff. So I think that's a good focus for people. It's like, you have to look up to somebody. Sometimes you just look in the mirror.
That's good.
Yeah. And on that note,
good night.
Good night.